Let's discuss about scope creep. We will explore predictive as well as adaptive life cycle, and we will talk about how the scope creep is relevant in both of these approaches. So what is scope creep? In a project space, so when we are working in a project environment, which is a temporary endeavor, we want to produce unique results and goal, we want to focus on, we do only the things which are relevant and agreed with the stakeholders. We don't want to have a situation where we end up doing something which was not part of our agreement or understanding. So in order to achieve that, in a project management space, we talk about something called controlling the scope, not letting the scope expand beyond what it should be. Yeah. And the scope creep is one of the thing or one of the label we apply when we see the scope got expanded in an uncontrollable manner. And that is something is disadvantage, because later on the stakeholder may also not like it, and you as a company who is executing it may also face just expenses for that uncontrolled scope. So scope creep primarily referred to the term or to the situation when some of the stakeholder start asking you to do something more than initial agreement. And by doing, and maybe team end up accepting it without following a formal mechanism which they have agreed to take care of such kind of a request, they may bypass it considering it's a small thing, and by doing that small thing they discover it was not a small thing, because small things becomes a big thing. And then you realized, oh God, where we are, we have expanded our scope beyond our management or control level. So as a project manager, we need to put process in place so that we avoid or control the scope creep. So let's look at the tool or the process or mechanism we apply to controlling scope creep in the predictive way, and then we also talk about in the adaptive way. So in a predictive life cycle, we focus on having a requirement converted into a scope, and we do a scope baseline. The scope baseline becomes as a kind of an approved version for us to refer to as a project team, and it also becomes a clear guidance that we need to do this part of the work only. Now, if we discover something new, if the stakeholder comes up with a new idea, we define what kind of a new idea requires proper change management process. Not necessarily each a small new idea requires it, we need to define depending upon our context. And whenever we see that some new idea is coming, we need to follow that integrated change management process, which ensures that we are exploring as a project team, we are understanding the impact of that particular change on all the aspects of the project, like implementation, budget, timeline, future deployment, and the overall, the whole life cycle cost of that particular change is expected to be understood. So based on that integrated understanding of that change, if the change produces benefit, we do it. If the change is not producing benefit, we don't do it. But there is a clear understanding and integrated approach which is called integrated change management, that ensures that we are not doing uncontrolled expansion of the scope. Predictive life cycle. Now the major confusion starts in the adaptive life cycle, because many of you may believe, yeah, adaptive life cycle is all about keep adding things. Yeah, if the customer is or stakeholders are saying just do this more, do this more, we should keep doing. There is no place. Now at some extent this understanding is right, but we need to see the holistic view. There could be 10 stakeholders, and you can't listen to each and every stakeholders, and they may give a contradictory requirement. And if you don't create a process or a platform where all these requirements get discussed and evaluated and then prioritized, then you get into a situation called scope creep, where you start listening to one guy doing something uncontrolled way, and then you realize, oh, we have reached to a stage where our priorities are no more aligned with the overall goal of the product or solution which we are developing. So in the agile way, we want to have various meetings, like a backlog refinement meeting. So rather than the change is getting discussed one-on-one with a particular stakeholder or a particular a person who is implementing it, we want to have that conversation at a platform where all the stakeholders who can provide the integrated view are present, and based on that particular discussion as well as understanding of the impact of the change, we take a call, should we include it into our product backlog or should we not include it. So having a process or an activity linked to a backlog refinement ensures that we are not adding something without a proper awareness of what we are doing in our project space. So that's the one tool we use in the adaptive life cycle to ensure that we are only taking the changes which are agreed, understood by the bigger stakeholder group, which is expected to evaluate such kind of activity. The another thing which we do in the adaptive life cycle is that we have a frequent transparent review of our products and services. So say at the end of each iteration, we are expected to do the iteration review, and in the iteration review we show what we have done. If the team might have listened to a particular stakeholder, might have done something extra than others expected, that thing will become visible at the end of an iteration. Yeah, we may lose some work, but at least at the end of an iteration, which should be a small duration like 2 weeks or 3 weeks, 2 weeks is the most common one, everybody will come to know what is working, what has been done and what has not been done. And if something is going in the different direction which was not expected, things will be caught at a very earlier stages. So these are the possible two tools to understand how adaptive life cycle controls the scope creep happening in the project environment if you are working in.